My name is Hannah Grant. I am the Environmental Public Programming Assistant at the Anita Purvis Nature Center in Urbana, which means that I work with everyone from preschoolers to seniors and everyone in between. My most regular programming is usually we have some kind of recurrent pre-K program going all year round except summer. So that's usually either drop-in activities or short hour-long activities. When I was covering more for my boss during her maternity leave, we had monthly visits to senior centers that she does that I got to cover, which is fun because you get to develop a relationship with the same people. We also do like family events, not as frequently because those take a lot more planning and investment, but I'll help with the event planning. I'll help, getting all the supplies we need, setting everything up and running. I have an after school program that we are doing right now where we're having middle schoolers come and help with our animal care, which is still pretty new, so we're still kind of figuring it out, but it's been a really positive experience so far. And then sometimes I also help out with field trips and school visits, although we have like a separate staff person who's in charge of specifically school programs, so usually school stuff and public programming stuff are pretty separate. It took me a while to get there. At first, I thought I wanted to be a scientist. I majored in environmental science and went to grad school, but field work was not something that I was physically able to do. It made me really sick, but while I was there, I was TAing in two classes every year, and I really enjoyed working with college students and sort of encouraging them. One of the classes I did was plant ID, which can be like it's like 100 plants in the 6 weeks that they're still alive during the fall semester. So it can be a really overwhelming experience for students. And having taken that as an undergrad, I was able to kind of sympathize with them and kind of, I think it was a little easier for me than the professor to approach it because I had just been in the place where I had to learn all this stuff, whereas he had been doing it for longer than I had been alive. So he'd known this for a long time and kind of forgot how hard it was to learn it. So it was really rewarding for me to be able to work with those students and help them be successful and gain an enthusiasm for learning about plants. So for a while, I thought I wanted to be maybe like a community college professor. And then after I graduated, I was working at the university and I was also picking up hours at the Nature Center. And I really enjoyed the work at the Nature Center because you get to do all different kinds of things. You're constantly doing different programs. It's fun to work with the different age groups because you still get to do complex material, sometimes with older groups, but working with young children is also very rewarding because you can help them build up that sort of baseline comfort in nature and appreciation for nature, where if they don't get out when they're small children, often as like you'll see in I don't know, maybe once they're getting into like late elementary school, they'll be really fearful of things. So it's nice to give them that sort of base comfort and like build the foundation for them to be comfortable like going out and exploring on their own. The biggest thing that I think about now, after having been there a little over a year, that you get a lot better at dealing with as you go into things, is just having to be really flexible because you're working with all these different groups of people. You're doing maybe different things all the time. You're trying to deliver as much programming as you can because you're trying to, justify the existence of your position and your unit by delivering programming and paying for yourself. Um, so it can be tricky sometimes because not every group is the same. The same lesson isn't going to work the same way every day. Sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate. Sometimes there are two people running the same program at the same time and someone gets sick, so you have to do it by yourself. So I think the most consistent challenge is when you get to work and you're like, well, I had a plan for today. Now that's not going to work, and I have 30 minutes to figure out how I'm going to do the next 2 hour program and how I'm going to fill the time. And at first, that was kind of stressful, but now it's one of my favorite things about the job because the more practice you get, the more you're able to succeed in a situation like that, and it definitely makes it interesting. I think other challenging things would be like getting through the desk days when you are writing the seasonal report and you're just like, I'm stapled to my desk for the next 8 hours writing something really dry. And, sometimes individual groups can be really challenging too. So that I did school tours this year for the first time. And, some groups of kids just don't get as much attention as they need because their parents are working all the time, or some other stuff going on at home. And it can be really difficult to show those kids, to like keep them focused and keep the 20 children under your control, and like somewhere where you can see them and keep the group moving forward, and still be like encouraging, and try to get them to feel passionate instead of just feeling like you're yelling at them all the time, when it's like, well, I really can't let you wander off into the woods because you might get hurt, so we have to have some boundaries. That can be really challenging too, but you learn ways to cope with that and still make it a positive experience for everyone. I get to take screech owls out on my hand all the time, which is one of the coolest things, I think. But like also, I think the best thing is just that you get to goof off with kids. In environmental education, your job is to share your passion with people and to try to ignite excitement and interest. And that to me is really energizing and it's really fun. And most kids really, if you just give them something to be excited about, they'll be excited. Like maybe some of the older kids will have to try to act cool still, and not be like too outwardly excited, but mostly you can get them interested. um, so I think the biggest advantage of your job is that it's, I mean, you need to prepare and you need to teach yourself, but your job is literally to just go out in nature and be excited about things and get other people excited, which is really fun. On program days, it's getting to just like kind of click into the program and be excited about what we're doing, and like just like interacting with people, and getting to be excited and share that passion and see what they have to tell you too, because kids are like little sponges. Like it's amazing how much information they have up there, and like they just surprise you constantly. And that's just really fun. And it's also nice to just be able to go on a walk in the woods, during your workday, as part of your workday, that you're not stuck inside all the time. Cool. I think the biggest thing is the flexibility thing I talked about earlier, which is like, plan as much as you can. I mean, some people just like fly by the seat of their pants all the time, and that's fine. But like, make sure you've at least done your research. Make sure you know your information. Make sure you have a rough plan of like, we're gonna do this, then this, then this, that you've run through in your head, so you know everything you need for each activity and roughly how long they're gonna be. And then don't feel like a failure when you have to throw that out the window and plan something else on the go, because that's just how it goes a lot of the time. Is like, your material is too advanced for the kids, or it's not advanced enough, or it rains, and you just have to change things, and that's okay. And I think the other thing would be to just like really try hard to be patient and to stay flexible even when kids aren't behaving, because you have to. I mean, I think the older you get, maybe for some people, the harder it is to remember what it's like to be a kid. But like, you have to remember that like the world is constantly just like ending and being remade. Like you haven't experienced so many things as a child that like everything seems so big. And sometimes they're just like they're having a bad day, or they're hungry, or they're really overwhelmed and they're not being their best selves to you. But some people really lock down with that, and it can be hard not to. Like I'm definitely more of a structured person, but I try really hard to remain flexible with those kids and stay positive with them. Like even if they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and you have to crack down and say, you cannot be doing this. It is dangerous to you or someone else, and if I see you do it again, you know, you're in a timeout or something. To still, when you switch back to the program, try to be positive and engaging and focus on their interests and find a way to draw them in, because all you're doing, if you get really like rigid and negative with those kids, is killing their interest in whatever you're talking about. So I think it's important to keep in mind that even if they're giving you a hard time, like they're not bad people, they're just 9 and they're navigating the world and they're trying to figure it out, and you have more self-control than they do. So you need to be the one to use it, and to try to engage them positively.